this is demo about the TRICENTIS Tosca tool that we'll be providing the training for. So before starting I have partitioned this demo into two parts. One is a quick walkthrough of a PPT on this, explaining this, the TRICENTIS Tosca tool, and the other part is wherein I'll provide a live demo on how we work with Tosca, like how we create the test cases, how we execute and maintain the test case. So before that, I'll just give you a walkthrough the PPT. Now, coming to my profile, I'm the trainer. I'll be the trainer. So considering my work ex, I have a total of 4+ years of experience of working into automation testing, with my forte being the TRICENTIS Tosca TestSuite. So about talking into TRICENTIS Tosca, I have worked and automated on a wide variety of projects, like in domains. Like I've worked on Tosca automation under financial domain projects. Then I have also worked on Oracle ERP automation testing with Tosca, and I have also automated the Salesforce technology using Tosca. And considering my secondary skills, these are Selenium and Core Java. Yeah, but with these two, I do not have much experience. But yes, with Tosca, I have 4+ years of experience of the automation testing. And again, coming to Tosca, so I worked on various things into Tosca, like how to create the different testing cycles, from the requirements section to the test design to the test cases, and then the final execution. And it covers all the different components, like how to capture the screens, which comes under the section called modules. Then I have worked on test cases creation, the reusable blocks, then working on using if-else conditions and loops in Tosca, then recovery scenarios, then creating execution suites, executing the regression suites. I've also worked on implementing the DEX concept as of the distributed execution of the test cases during the regression. These are the things that I have worked on using Tosca. Now let's just see through what our course curriculum consists of. So it consists of, we explain how the modules work. Like modules is wherein we capture the object, the screen objects. Screen objects meaning to say the screens of the application that we have to steer. Then we'll be covering the test cases, as in how to build the test cases out of the modules that we have worked. Then I'll be explaining the different action modes and their uses, where you have to put the different action modes to use. Then how we steer the tables and the different properties of table steering. Then how to generate the dynamic dates and time expressions, and also the dynamic or the random values generation, you can say. Then we'll be covering the libraries, wherein we talk about the reusable tester blocks and the business parameters. And we'll also be covering on working with modules, like as in how do we merge the modules, then how do we dynamically, how do we map the dynamic properties of the web elements. So those things will be explained while we are covering the module section, as in how to create the module. We'll also be covering the usage of the if condition, the loop as in the while and the do while loop. And we'll also be covering the usage of the repetition property in Tosca. Then we'll be seeing the execution list, as in how the execution list is used in terms of executing the test cases. Then I'll give you a brief overview of the requirements section, how we map the requirements to the test cases and then to the execution. Then comes the multi-user environment. Like generally when we are working in a bigger project where not just one employee, where not just one resource is deployed for the deliverables. So there we work in multi-user environment. So again, when coming to multi-user environment, there are various ways, ways meaning to refer to different kinds of DB with the help of which you can, set up the multi-user environment. So that's another part that comes in Tosca. Then I'll be explaining and making use of recovery scenarios, as in how we create recovery scenarios and we handle the test execution failures with the help of recovery and cleanup. Then we'll be seeing the test case design section. Test case design section is the one wherein you have the facility to leverage the data storing within Tosca. You do not need to go for any external medium of data storage. For example, you can refer to the MS Excel sheets. So working with Excel and storing data in Excel is a very common medium of like driving the test data through some external source. But with Tosca, you have a test case design section wherein we'll be seeing how we create the test sheet and store the data in these sheets. Then comes the Excel manipulation. So Tosca also has its own engine which helps to manipulate the Excel, like the Excel workbook. So we'll be seeing that. Then we'll be seeing the usage of the few of the standard T-box modules, and then we'll be seeing some of the basics of the API test. So today's agenda is we have three parts. Basically, then the first one is the Tosca TestSuite overview. Then the second one is the testing processes supported by Tosca. Processes as in, what are the testing processes that are supported by Tosca? Processes means the different stages of testing. And then comes the testing types, which is supported by Tosca. Testing types meaning to say, what all types of testing does Tosca help you to leverage? So beginning with the Tosca TestSuite overview. So what is Tosca TestSuite? Like Tosca TestSuite, when we talk is, it is a collection of different components. It is basically a tool that allows you to automate your functional software requirements. So it has been designed designed into different components. If we talk about the components, so these are the Tosca Commander, Executor, the Xcan, and the repository. So talking about each of these components, what is Tosca Commander? Tosca Commander is, you can say, it is the one roof wherein the entire testing process is automated and maintained. When I talk about the testing process, again I'm talking about the different stages of testing, starting from test planning, requirements, test design, then test case creation, meaning to say automation of the development of automated scripts, then executing those scripts and maintenance. So all this activity is maintained and processed under one interface that is called the Tosca Commander. And Tosca Executor. Tosca Executor is a different interface which lets you execute your test cases independent of the Tosca Commander. So there are two ways that you can execute your test cases. One is the Tosca Commander, and if you want to execute your test cases irrespective of independent of the Tosca Commander, so there is a component called Tosca Executor which lets you do this. Then coming to Tosca Xcan. Tosca Xcan is a Tosca feature which lets you capture the different screens of the application and save them in the form of modules. And then coming to the Tosca repository. The Tosca repository is a repository wherein all your Tosca artifacts are placed. Let's see a overview of the different sections of Tosca. So here the picture that you can see is, this is nothing but the Tosca Commander. Just in the former slide that I talked about, the interface which lets you manage the different testing processes. This is the Tosca Commander, wherein you can see there are different sections. Like this is the status bar which shows the status of the commander. Then this is the tree view. Tree view as in Tosca the objects are, the test cases are stored in the form of a hierarchical tree view. So this is the tree view. Then again this is the details view wherein you can see the details of your test cases and the test steps. Then this is the properties pane wherein you can see the properties of the respective object. Then talking about, these are different tabs to which you can switch, like the test cases tabs, the modules tab, the requirements tabs, the test case design tab. So these are the different tabs. When I say what are these tabs are again the different stages of the testing cycle. Like the test cases is the tab wherein you develop and maintain your test scripts. Modules is again the tab wherein you have the screens captured. Similarly, you have requirements, test case design, execution, issues, configuration, and so on. So we'll be seeing all these things shortly. Then again on the top you can see these are the menu tab wherein you have different menu options. Then this is the title bar wherein you can see the path to your workspace and the name of the workspace. Now let's come to the testing processes supported by Tosca. So as we said, the testing processes is nothing but the different testing stages. Like so how we progress from the starting phase of testing to the completion. So talking about test planning. So in Tosca we have a test planning section. So this test planning section is not to be accessed by all the employees who are working. Meaning to say, like the somebody who is working on the deliverables to automate the test cases. So test planning is not for their use. As you can see, that this is to be used by the managerial level people so that they can create the sessions, milestones, or they can allocate tasks to the resources who are currently working on creating the deliverables. Like from this, they can create the users, they can allocate the tasks to different users, and then they can view the status of the project, as in whatever task has been allocated to which user, how much percentage of it has been completed, and so on. Then comes the requirement gathering phase. So in requirement gathering phase, what you can do is you can create the requirement in the form of requirement set. Then for each requirement set, you can create different requirements, and you can map those requirements to the test cases and then to the execution list. So what does this help you to? This helps you with tracking the status of your the entire deliverables. As in, if you if you map your requirement to the test cases, so you can see as to what is the current status of each test case under that requirement. That you have an idea that which requirement is complete to what level, what is the status of my particular requirement. And similarly, when you link your requirement to the execution list, so then you have the track of the total path and the failure percentage of your requirement. Then coming to the test case designing. So as I explained, that the test case design section is an internal data storage medium that is provided by Tosca. So wherein you can store the data and you can create, it allows you to create different combinations of instances of the same test case. It allows you to create multiple instances for your test cases. It has different methods by which you can generate the combinations of the data. Like there are linear expansion, there are orthogonal method, there is combinatorial method. So each method has its own usages. But generally what we see and what we follow is the linear expansion method. Then coming test object identification. So this is the same thing. This is a portion of the Tosca Xcan window that you can see. So test object identification means identifying the controls on your web application or any application or your desktop application or your web application that you have to steer. So Tosca Xcan lets you capture the web controls and save them in the form of modules. Also, we have the custom modules or engines that we can develop in Tosca. So when do these come into picture? So these come into picture when suppose in your web application or any application that you are steering, in that case, if you have a control which is not able to be recognized by the standard Tosca installation package components, right? When we talk about the standard Tosca installation, so when we install the Tosca, so with installation comes some set of standard modules, and also you can create your own modules. When I'm talking about you can create your own modules, meaning to say you can create the modules by scanning the application. Now suppose when you are scanning the application, what happens is any one of the component you see, any one control is there, which your Tosca is, which the Tosca engine, the normal Tosca engine is not able to recognize, or it is not able to steer. So in that case, we also have the option to create the custom modules for those controls. But again, the custom modules need to be created by the VB script, and these custom modules do require some extra, cost, because TRICENTIS will obviously be developing these custom modules for the usage of your project. So again, this involves some extra cost that again you have to the sales team and the rest have to talk about it. And then with the agreed, things, this is progress further. Now when we talk about test scripting, so test scripting is again, we are talking about the test cases section, wherein you can develop your automated scripts using the different Tosca components like the test steps, the loops, the conditions, the reusable blocks. So these will be seen shortly. Now comes the test execution. The execution section is the one wherein we run our test cases, or we run our regression suite, as you might say. So in the test execution section, you'll be able to see all the logs captured for the entire execution. And then there's a reporting section in Tosca. So reporting section, what it does is, it allows you to pull the reports in the various formats, like maybe in PDF, in Excel, Word format, and there are multiple formats in which you can pull the report. And again, for reporting, you do not have to, opt for any third-party reporting tool. So Tosca has its own report generating component, which lets you pull the report for any execution from Tosca itself. Then one section is defect management also, wherein for if you run your execution suite and then during that, if a defect is expected or if it is detected, then what you can do in Tosca under the defect management, you can also log a defect for that particular test. And one more thing is there called the test data management. So test data management, when we talk about test data management, so this is another kind of test data management tool which is provided by Tosca. So it provides you a kind of database wherein you can store your data in the form of rows and tables, just like you refer to the any external DB. In any DB, you are able to store your data in the form of rows and tables. So similarly, Tosca has its own inbuilt TDM object editor, which lets you store the data in a similar format. So for this, you don't need to go for any other external DB. It's just another test data management tool provided by Tosca. Let's talk about the testing types which are supported by Tosca. So when I say testing types, means that what all kinds of testing are supported by Tosca. So one is database testing. That is Tosca has its DB engine, its standard modules, which lets you do DB validation also. So again, for different types of DB validations, again there are some different components meaning to say parameter values which are involved to be set up so as to interact with the DB. Then API testing. Tosca has its own Tosca API scanner which lets you scan the API, and then using the scan module you can steer the test cases as required. Then cross-browser testing. So Tosca also allows you to test your objects in multiple browsers and execute them as per the requirement. Then Tosca also steers mobile applications. So it has its own engines for mobile application steering as well. So it lets you steer the Android and iOS applications. Yeah, so that was all for the explanation of Tosca. And then when we are talking about, so there are two basic certifications, AS1 and AS2, that is Automation Specialist Level 1 and Automation Specialist Level 2. So these are available free of cost. So for this, what you have to do is, first you'll have to register on the TRICENTIS support portal and you'll have to enroll for these two courses. AS1 and AS2 are the basic certifications, and you need to master AS1 and AS2. That is a minimum requirement for you to work with Tosca. So AS1 and AS2, the course content covers these things itself, like the test cases, how to create test cases, how to scan modules, then how to build your data in the test case design, how to steer the requirements section, then covering the recovery and the other components like the reusable block, loops, if conditions. So these consider the basics that you need to start working with Tosca. So for these, you can enroll free of cost and you can clear these certifications. Then coming to the requirements, that is the hardware requirements that is required for Tosca is, like you should have a minimum of 8 GB RAM. So I think with some older versions of Tosca, it could be worked with 4 GB also, but I have faced this issue that with 4 GB, the performance is very inconsistent and it keeps on crashing. So that is not recommended. So it's better to have a 8 GB RAM. Then again, talking about the Windows, it supports on 7, 8 and 10. And again, also having the latest is the best thing. Then the hard disk, you can see it's 50 GB and the processor should be i5. That is the must requirement. So again, if you would want the learning materials for Tosca, so there are ample of learning materials. So suppose if you enroll for a certification course, so therein for each certification course, they have provided their own videos with each content of the course. And also apart from that, there are so many learning materials as in the Tosca documentation is there. Then TRICENTIS has its own YouTube channel wherein you can find videos on different topics, and then There's a whole TRICENTIS community platform wherein there are knowledge-based articles, there are documents, there are videos available. So yes, you can definitely go on to those for the video materials or the learning materials. Yeah, so now what we can do is, we can start with the actual demo, live demo of Tosca. So this is the Tosca Commander interface. So here I'll start with showing how do we create a project in Tosca. So right now, when I'm showing the project, that will be a single repository project. That is a single user workspace, a local repository. Because for a setting up a multiple user workspace, that requires a proper DB, server details and all those things. So, yeah. So, in order to create a new workspace, what you have to do is, you have to click on project, then new. Now, here it lets you select the type of repository. By default, the value is none. But suppose if you are to connect to a multiple user workspace, then you have to select the respective DB, which is used to set up the multi-user workspace. But here, since it is a local workspace, so I'll be using none. Then here it gives you the default path to create the workspace. Then you have to select the name for a workspace. So now suppose if I select a name which is already existing, so it does not let you create the workspace. It has given an error. The selected name, test1, for the new workspace is invalid because I already have an existing workspace in the same path. So I have to give some unique name for the workspace. So let's give the name as MindMajix demo. And here, if I tick the checkbox use workspace template, then what happens is, in the workspace, my standard modules will be auto imported, like they'll be present. Whereas if I do not check this, then I'll have to explicitly import the standard modules package. So let's tick it, and then I'll click on OK. So it takes some time for the workspace to get created. So here you can see that my workspace has been created, and that workspace is open. So this was the section that I was showing in one of the former slides that we went through. So let's start with the different tabs in Tosca. So you can see these are the different tabs that was depicted there. The test cases section. So this is the section wherein you develop and maintain your test cases. This is the module section. So module section is the section wherein you capture the screens of the application that you need to hear during the test execution. Then this is the requirement section wherein we build our requirements. Again, this is the test case design section wherein we design the test sheet and store the data in the test. Pardon me. This is the execution section wherein we build the execution list and execute during the regression phase. This is the issues section. Then configurations are for setting up multiple configurations for different parts. So this is not to be covered in our scope. And then again, test planning is also not to be covered in our scope. So as far as scope is concerned, we'll be considering the test cases, modules, requirements, test case design, and execution. So before I show you how to create modules, so here I told you, like since I have checked that use workspace template checkbox, so I told you that the standard modules will be already present in my workspace. So here you can see. So what are standard modules? So standard modules are a set of modules which are inbuilt, which are provided by Tosca. So what these standard modules help you with? They help you with during the normal day-to-day activities that is required. Like for example, you can say open URL. So open URL is the very first prerequisite for automating testing any web application, right? In order to test a web application, the prerequisite is that you should have your URL launched and you should also be logged into the application. So open URL is one of the standard modules, because if they would not provide their standard modules, for those common tasks, so it would be difficult for us to create the modules for those tasks. So for the common tasks, the Tosca provides the standard modules. So let's see some of the standard modules. So you can see these are the basic Windows operations. So basic Windows operation lets you perform any operations related to your general Windows. For example, keyboard take screenshot. So what it does is it lets you take the screenshot of any screen in the application and save it. Then similarly you can see keyboard clipboard, send keys. Then send keys, what it lets you do is it lets you send some value to any window or a pop-up that is open and wherein you have to send some value. Then keyboard window operation. So keyboard window operation lets you perform multiple operations, like it lets you close a particular window, open a particular window, or wait till a particular window is open. So all those things it lets you do. Then keyboard save as, then keyboard dialog. Then coming to buffer operations. So buffer operations has a set of buffer modules which lets you perform different operations. When I say buffer, so buffer means temporary storage. So similarly you can see different modules, different standard modules. The most common which is put to use is the keyboard set buffer. Keyboard set buffer lets you create a variable and store the value in a variable. Like in coding or in programming language, we have the concept of variable and the value. So similarly, keyboard set buffer lets you create your variable and store the value in the variable. Similarly, you have keyboard delete buffer. It lets you delete your specific buffers or all the buffers existing in your system. Similarly, we have keyboard partial buffer. So it lets you extract some substring out of a string. Then coming to expression evaluation tool, this lets you compare your expressions, your relational expressions, and as well as logical expressions you can write and compare here. Then keyboard file operation, so it performs you a set of, provides you with a set of modules which lets you perform file operations. For example, to create a new file, read a file, copy a file from one folder to the other, delete a file, verify a file existing, whether a file is existing or not in the app in your system. Then keyboard start program. So this is one of the modules which is very important and it is used very commonly. So keyboard start program lets you explicitly start a program in your system. Like it lets you explicitly start any of the programs. Say the CMD, if you have to perform some operation in the CMD, then you can perform from here. You can start from here and you can give your respective arguments or the values that you have to perform in CMD. Again, if you want to start Outlook, for example, you can start from here. So keyboard start program lets you steer or any Windows operation or start any application in your system through the keyboard start program. Then again timing. Timing is another module. So these are the modules which let you put some explicit wait time for your wait time as a part of your test case. Then again talking about keyboard X engine. So Tosca has its X engines which are again used for steering different technologies. Like you can see here XML, then JSON, then mail engine. So mail engine is used to steer the email. Again talking about the mobile and SAP and all these. So you can see these are the standard modules which are provided by Tosca itself. And then test data management. So this is used to steer the test data management tool which I showed in the previous slide. There is a TDM object editor wherein we could store the data in the form of rows and tables. So in order to steer that also, Tosca has its own set of standard modules to perform different functions, like to insert some data into the table, to query some data out of the table, to update some value and so on. So let's now start with the module section as in how to capture the screen. So I'll be showing one of the sample applications provided by Tosca. So TRICENTIS has its own sample application, the demo web shop. So let's try to scan that. Our first task is what we have to do. We have to scan the screen. So when I say we have to scan the screen, it means that particular screen that we have to scan, that should be already launched in our browser. Right now, we are not developing the test case. We are just scanning the screen of our application. So, this is to be done from the module. So, what you have to do, you have to right click on the module section, select the module folder, right click, then you can see multiple options. So, in the context menu, you can see the options are there. So, let's just take a quick look to what each of these options represents. So, this is like create a folder. That is, it lets you create a module like folder to structure your modules. Then, this is create folder structure. Again, create virtual folder. Create module. This is the symbol of icon of a module. Then create configuration parameters. Create X module. And these are the different options. Right now, what we have to do is we have to scan the application. So you select scan, and then once you select the scan option, you have a list of different things which are available. So these are the things, like this is the option provided by the Tosca scan. And what do you want to steer? Do you want to steer an application, API, mobile, PDF, and so on. So right now, we are steering a web application. So I'll select the option application. Now the Tosca scan is starting. It might take a few moments, instance of time. So this is the application selector screen. So since you can see in my system, I have multiple screens open. Like you can see in the browser, I have this demo desktop open. Then I have this PPT open. So now it is asking you what is the screen that you want to select. So here, what I have to do is I have to select the screen. I select it and then I click on scan. So once I've clicked on scan, then what happens is you can see that all the controls which are present in the screen, those controls are loaded in the Tosca scan window. Like for example, if you see this is the register link. If I double click on it, it's highlighting on the screen. So this is the register link. Similarly, this is login link. This is the shopping cart link. So these are the different controls which are available. Now what you have to do, you only need to capture those controls which you actually need to steer. So let's see a registration process right now. So what you need to do for registration process, you have to select the register link, right? So let's select the register link. So how do you select? You just tick the checkbox next to the particular web element that you have to capture. So once I've captured it, can you see here the message is displayed, the selected item is unique. So when this message is displayed, it means that the properties with which I have scanned this particular element, those are uniquely able to identify this element. Now let's see if I select this element, you can see in the right, the property section that is identified by properties, there are a list of certain properties which are displayed. So our first priority is to identify the objects with the help of properties. So there are various techniques by which we can identify an element in Tosca. So the first priority is to identify the element with properties. And also when I say property, the priority is to be given to the technical property, as in the ID, the class name, the inner text, and all these things. So these are the properties which help to steer your test object or the web element very fast. Now, when these properties do not work, then we opt for certain other methods. So you can see here that the by default property that has been mapped for this register link is its inner text, that is making it unique. Now, suppose if I uncheck this property. So you can see here the message is displayed. The selected item is not unique, right? So what I have to do is I always have to identify an element as unique in order to steer through Tosca. Because if it's not unique, then at the time when you're running your test case, it will end up with error that the object was not found or multiple controls found. So let's select the property again. So now you can see that this element has been selected. So what you do is, so here by default the name of your module will come as the caption or the name of the tab which is open. So we have to rename. So we have to rename the module to make sense so that we are able to identify that this module is made for this screen. So let's name it as Demo Web Shop Launch Page. Now what we do is we will save its module. So to save the module, you have to click on here, and then what it does is it saves your module. Now what you have to do is, okay, so once it's saved, let me just close it and show you in Tosca. So can you see here, you have a module which is created. So you can see when Tosca creates a module, it also embeds an image of the screen of that particular app, the particular screen for which this module is created. If I would just double click on this image, you can see that this module is has scanned this screen of the application. Clear? Now you can see that this is the module, and for this module we have just scanned one control, that is the register link, because I'll be showcasing the registration process here. So you can see here this module also has certain properties, like in the properties pane you can see the properties, and again for the module attribute, like the object that we capture. So the object that we captured was a register link, so that becomes a module attribute when it is captured in the module. So you can see for this it has the technical properties which is revealed here. So there are some of the properties which are inherited by default, and some of the properties that we select, that is the inner text and the tag and so on. So we have one module created. So now what we have to do after register, we have certain other fields that need to be filled in for registration process. Now again what we have to do is we'll again create one more module. Now what the purpose is, for each different screen what we should do is we should maintain different modules. Why? Because if for multiple screens if you keep on scanning in the same module, then what will happen? Your module will be unnecessarily overcrowded, and it will just make the maintenance difficult, identification difficult. So what we should keep as a convention is for different screens scan different modules. So now we have the registration screen. So again we start our scanning. So similarly the Xscan window will be started and we select the screen. So I'll select this screen and then I'll click on scan. So now again what I have to do is I have to select the controls which I need for the registration process. So right now what I showed you was that I have just ticked in the checkbox meaning to say whichever control I require. So apart from selecting the controls from this Xscan, by checking the checkbox, you have another option is select on screen. So what it lets you do is you select this option, then what you do is you just point your Tosca pointer on the particular element that you want to select, and that will be captured in the module. So let's just see this. I've selected the option select on screen, then now it's in the select on screen mode. So I have to select the radio button for this gender. So I'll select male, female, then I have to select this text box. So now you can see how I'm selecting. I'm directly selecting all the controls that I require, and these are getting captured in the module. This is again the register. Now, so once you have collected all the elements that you want, so what you can do is you can just exit the select on screen mode by clicking on the same option select on screen, or either by pressing the escape button. Now you have this option as highlight the selection. So when you do this, what it does is it highlights your selections on the screen, on the application. So let's select it. So if you select this element, then you can see that the particular radio button is being highlighted. When you hover control over this first name text box, you can see the corresponding element on the screen. So highlight selection is used to highlight whatever elements you have selected up till now. Clear? So here we have selected these controls. So let's look at some of the other properties
by other object identification techniques by which we can identify the elements. So by now, since this is a sample website, demo website, so this is not very much dynamic in nature. So you can see that whatever controls we have selected by default, these have been mapped to the properties and these are unique. So let's just to depict how to, the different identification techniques, I'll just show. Now let's select this radio button and its ID is gender male. So suppose if it did not have an ID, a unique ID, then how we could do was, like the first method that we opt is, like we would want to select some other technical property which might make it unique. Like for example, if you select name, so you can see that name is again not making it unique. Value, you can see, okay, value has made it unique. So you can, when selecting with property, you can select any of the properties which can make it unique. Now suppose if any of the property is not able to make it unique, then what we do? In that case, we have to look for different methods. So these different methods are listed under identify by. So what you do, you select the particular element and you do identify by. Then what it does is, it displays the list of techniques that is available for identification. So the since properties is the default technique which is selected, so this is already highlighted. The other techniques are anchor, image and index. So priority is given in this manner, that is anchor is the second priority, then index being the third, and image is given the lowest priority. Like you should never go for image based identification because this is very vulnerable to any kind of changes like your zoom settings or your resolution changes and, or accuracy. It requires a very it should be accurate. Else, like if there is any change in the zoom, resolution or display, then image identification is bound to fail. So that's why image identification is the last method that we opt for in case nothing works, but it is highly non-recommendable. Then, so let me show you how to scan by index. So when you say scan by index, so what it does is, it assigns an index to the element, meaning to say index as in, like suppose there are 10 checkboxes in your screen. So if you want to identify those checkboxes by index, so what it will do is, it will it will assign an index to each of the checkboxes in the order in which they appear in the screen. So if I do identify by index, so can you see its value is 1 by 2. Why? Because in the current screen we have only 2 radio buttons. So in the sequence in which they appear, male is given the index as 1 because it appears before the female radio box, right? So suppose if I select it. So here you can see that the selected item is unique. So this is another method of identification. But again, identification by index should also be opted in a situation wherein your properties is not working. Why? Because suppose if you have identified this by index and next time what happens is in your screen an element, a similar radio button gets added to the screen which appears before the male, right? So in that case, now the index value for the male radio button will be 2, right? So at the time of test execution, Tosca will click on the radio button which is appearing on the first index, right? So that's why index is also highly susceptible to changes in case same kind of elements are inserted into the screen. Suppose, let's say this we have done by index right now. Now suppose we are talking about the first name. As you can see, for the first name, the default property that is selected is ID. So let's deselect the ID. Again, you can see this is, non-unique. Now to make it unique, I have depicted the usage of properties and index. So let's see how anchor works. So select by anchor. So what it does is, so in anchor, what you do is, to try to identify this element uniquely with the help of any target element, which acts as an anchor to it. So as an anchor, it helps to locate that element in the top to bottom manner with some algorithms. So there are 2 to 3 algorithms. I think 2 algorithms are there. There is, I think, shortest distance algorithm and there's one more. So let's see. I select this element and then what I do is, I do identify by anchor. So can you see now this is the identify by anchor window which is open. So by default, there has been anchor identified by Tosca. So in case the Tosca is not able to identify an anchor, then in that case we have to identify it. So here can you see what is the, anchor control. The anchor control is the label first name. So let me just highlight it. So can you see the first name text is embedded in a label. So what Tosca is doing is, it is trying to identify the text box with the help of the anchor control called first, the label, its label. Now for each of the text box, there's a label you can see. For this text box, the label is first name. For this text box, the label is last name. For this, it is email. So for each of these controls, it is for first name, Tosca has detected that the finest anchor control is the first name. So you can see the algorithm that it takes is by default it is auto, and the other one is shortest path and coordinate. So by shortest path, what it does is it tries to locate the source element from this target element. That is a target that is which acts as the anchor control with the help of some shortest path algorithm. That is, it calculates some shortest distance between both the controls. And again, there is one more algorithm is coordinate, which tries to locate the element on the basis of some coordinate value. So this is how you identify by anchor. So you can see that now we are clear. So you can see that this identification technique by which we are trying to identify these elements. So let's again save these modules. So what we have done, we have saved the module. So here you can see by default its name is demowebshop.register. So while naming conventions are also very important in Tosca. Like not only in Tosca, but in any of convention depicts like how you have named it, and it makes it more readable. So in modules, whenever you are naming a module, make sure that your name of your module does not depict any action or a verb, because action is to be performed in the test case. Like for example, register to the website. This is depicting some action, right? So your module name should depict the name of some noun, as in some object. So this page was the register page. So what we can do is demo webshop register page. Now what we have to do, we have captured two modules. So for the first module, you can see we have captured only one value, that is register link. For the second, we have all the fields that we have to clear for the registration page. So now let's build a test case. So in order to build a test case, you have to go to the test cases section. Then what you do, you right click on the test case folder, and there are multiple options which are displayed, right? Create folder, create test case, then these are the reusable library blocks, then these provide some other options like create configuration parameter, create recovery. So right now what we have to do is, we have to create a test case. You select this option and you name it as, again, the naming of the test case should depict some action, and it should depict the, logical name of whatever your scenario is. So register to the demo web shop. So right now you can see the symbol is like this. So in the test cases, to depict the status of the completion, so what we have three work states. That is planned, in progress, and completed. So planned is a work state when the test case is in planned state and you have not started working. And again, in work is the state when it is in progress, and completed is the state when it's complete. So it is to be done manually. During the development, you have to do it manually. Now, what we have to do is, when in testing processes, there are we maintain in Tosca in terms of three subparts. One is the precondition, the actual workflow, and the post-condition. So precondition consists of the prerequisite steps that is to be done before the actual workflow. So, like before registering, what you have to do is, your precondition should be to launch the URL, right? So, for this, what we'll be using the standard module. So, here we have the open URL module. So, what you will do is, let's just build a basic structure. Let's name it as precondition folder. So what you have to do is you have to drag this module into your test case. So you drag it like this and you drop it on the folder under which you have to maintain it. So open URL, you can see there's a control call or an attribute called URL, and in the value column. So this is now when you have dragged your module into the test step in the test case. Now it becomes a test step. So here there are different columns like name. Name depicts the name of the control. Here the attribute is URL. So in the value column, you give the value that you have to pass to your test object. That is, for example, if it's a button, then what is the value you have to provide? You perform a click on a button, right? So click is the value. Similarly, if it's a text box, then you have to provide the respective input that you want to provide into the text box. Then action mode. So action modes, there are various action modes, right? If I expand this, you can see there are various action modes like input, insert, verify, buffer, wait on. Each of the action modes has a different tool. But right now, we have to provide simple inputs to the application. So we'll be using for now as input. And again, data type. Data type also has multiple types like string, date, numeric, boolean, and password. So what does data type allow? It binds the value that whatever data type you have set, you should provide the same kind of value over here. Okay. So here what we have to do, we have to in the launch URL step, we have to provide the URL of the website. So here in the value, I'll paste the URL of the website. So you can see that in the launch URL step, we have provided the value as the URL to the application. Then let's just create a workflow folder. So under workflow now, what we have to do, once our application is launched, now the actual workflow starts, as in the test steps that are the part of that particular test scenario. So now what we have to do, first we have to click on the register link, right? So let's drag this module. So let's name the test step. The test step is to click on register link. So I'll name it as click on register. So here what I have to do, I have to perform a click. So the syntax for click is curly braces CLICK. So there are multiple commands or the multiple functions which are provided by Tosca. So click is one of the functions. That's why if you see, all the commands in Tosca are represented with the help of curly braces. So as you see, if I click on curly brace, if I type a curly brace, it gives you a list of all the commands that are supported by Tosca. So since I have to, opt for click, I have to give a click action. So I can either select from here or I can simply type it as CLICK. And the action mode is input, because when I am clicking on something, I am providing an action on that element, a click on that element, input on that element. So my action mode is input. So once I click on register, then what I have to do is, then the page that appears, I have to provide the value to that page. So here, what I have to do is, I'll name it as input registration details. So now what I'll do is, I'll provide the values or the inputs that are required for registration. So here I'll be selecting the male gender. So I'll do click. Then first name, I have to give some value. So let's keep it as Akash. Then I have to give the value for the last name. So since these are text boxes, so here I have to specify the value that I want to provide to the application for registration. And again, the action mode will be input. Why it has to be input? Because these are the inputs that I am providing to the application. So now I have to give the email. Any dummy email ID I am providing. And then password. So again, now what I have to do is, I have to give the password. Now can you see, for these password text boxes, The data type is by default set to password. So why is it set to password? For the encryption purpose. So let's give some password as. Now, when you click, can you see here, it has been encrypted by default. Now again, I have to click on the register button. So in order to provide a click, one method I have shown is the click command. So there's another method to perform a click is using the input as X. So what is the difference between click and X is, with the help of click, with the help of click command, you can see the user simulation. That is a mouse movement. Like it will be like as a user moves the mouse cursor, similarly the Tosca also simulates the mouse cursor movement and it performs the click. You'll be able to see. But with the help of X, what it does is, it does not simulate a user action. So you will not be able to see that action being performed, but actually a click is performed. So this is the difference, and X is comparatively faster than click. Why? Because click is obviously involving some movement on the screen, whereas X is simply like without any user action, it is performing user simulation, it is performing the action. So let's execute till here. What I'll do is I'll close this. When talking about the execution part, so you can execute each of the different steps also. So there's an option, like for example, if you select this step and right click, there's an option called run in scratchbook. So generally at the time of testing, what we do is we run in scratchbook. So scratchbook is a temporary kind of facility which lets you check each of the test steps, whether those are working or not. Again, this is some temporary because the logs of the scratchbook execution are not captured. They diminish once you have executed this. Let's run the test case. So you can see that I have put the test case to execution. You can see in the below there is a progress bar. So it is showing the Tosca execution status. Now this is all done by Tosca. Now it has clicked on the register button, register link. See, it selected the radio button, it provided the input. Okay, I think this email ID is already existing. Let me just give another email ID. So this is the second time that I'm executing. So you can see that it has clicked on the register button. Now it will fill in the details for registration. So now you can see that once this registration is done, there's a message displayed on the screen. So let's just capture it. So what we have to do in order to make sure that the test case is passed, so there's always some post-validation or the verification that needs to be done. So in our registration process, the verification is of the successful test cases that there should be a registration complete message. So what we'll do is we'll select this message and verify this as a part of test completion. So I have captured this method. This particular control in which this method is displayed. So you can see here that right now it's non-unique. So what we have to do is we have to make it as unique. So I selected here the property called class name. So by selecting it with the help of class name, this is unique. So let's rename it as registration success message. So let's save. So after we have registered this, what we need to do is we need to verify the successful registration. So we drag this into the test case, and here what we have to do, we have to verify that its inner text should be this, that your registration is completed. So what I have to do is, here what I'll do on this particular message scan, what I have to do is I have to verify the value of the inner text. So for each of controls, what you have to do is at the value level, you can also validate the properties. In order to apply some verification on the properties, you can do is you have to click on this blue arrow mark. So you can see here you can give the name of the property, and at the right side you can verify the state of the property or the particular value. For example, by default, the properties are enabled, exist, inner text. So it is taking inner text because this is a scan control. So for scan control, inner text comes by default. So here what we have to do, we have to verify the value of the inner text to a particular message. So I select inner text and I try to verify that once my registration is complete, the application should display this message. So here what I am doing is I am doing verification, right? So I'll set the action mode to verify. And let's just run this particular step in the test, in the test case. So before that, I'll just show you. In the scratchbook, you can see that we have the log. Can you see the log? Open URL, then click on register, then input registration details. Now what I do is, if I quickly just run this step, then you can see the previous logs will vanish. Now, it is colored in green. Again, it means that it has passed. So now you can see here the previous logs have vanished and the current logs are there in the scratchbook. And the log info, it says that the verification was successful. That is, the expected and the actual values are equal. So once we have successfully registered it, then as a part of the post condition, what we have to do is, in the post condition, generally we do the steps which we have to do as a part of once the test case is complete. Like for example, you can release the resources which are required during your test execution, or you can log out of the application, close all the browsers, etc. So here what we have to do is, once we have done with the test case, we have to close this application. So again, this is to be done using the standard module close browser. So you drag this module in the post condition step, and what you do is, in the title section, in the title, for the title attribute, you have to specify the caption of your browser, meaning to say the name of or the title of the page. So here, what is the title is demo webshop dot register. But what happens is, sometimes maybe, like suppose this is because on the registration page, since it has our test case has executed completely, so its title is demo webshop dot register. But the title again may be dynamic. Like suppose if it closes on a registration dot login page, demo webshop dot login. So if I want to log out of the application from there, so I will have to specify the value as demo webshop dot login. So whichever page is there, I have to verify that. Give the value as that. Like for example, let me just navigate to this section, apparels and shoes. So can you see what is the that this entire title has two parts. One is the static part and the other is the dynamic part. There is a dynamic portion of the title. It is changing as per the particular screen on which we are in, right? If I go to digital downloads, you can again see the title is demo webshop dot digital download. Now you understand that in this title, how the title is changing. The static part remains as demo webshop dot, and as per the screen wherein we are, the dynamic part is changing. So it's better that we specify the caption as demo webshop followed by the wildcard. So what it means, this wildcard means that it will try to detect the browser which has the static part as demo webshop, and it will not bother for whatever is after this demo webshop. But then there should be the demo webshop present in the title. So what I'll do is I'll run this test step. So you can see that it has closed the browser over here. So in the scratchbook you could see that the logs are diminishing. Like the scratchbook, the logs are inconsistent. So I'll just quickly show this execution in the execution list so that you can have a glimpse of how the execution is logs are captured in the execution list. So for that, I'll just have to change a few details. Yep. So in the execution list, so this is the execution list section. So this is the main execution root folder. Under that, what you have to do is you have to create an execution folder. So demo web shop. And what we do is now we create a execution list. So let's name it as demo web shop execution. So under execution list, you pull in your different test cases that you have to execute. So let me just now here again to make one point. Once we have completed this test case, now let's we should always remember to set the status as per the actual status of the test case, so that we have a complete idea of the status of the percentage completion. So let's drag this test case into the execution list section. Okay, so once we have dragged it over here, now what we have to do is we have to execute it from the execution section. So for that, what we do is we just do a right click, and there are various options. Now, right now, since we are executing, you have to select on run. So let's just run it. So again, this is the entire execution being done by Tosca. Since this was not logged out, so let me just trigger the execution again. So the execution is started and the browser is launched. So again, the same registration steps will be repeated. Then it had verified the message and closed the browser. So here you can see the logs. These logs are permanent. Anytime you want to see, you can see. So this is the recent log. The recent log always occurs as the latest. So there are various columns that you can see. There is a log info, the start time, your duration, the end time value also can be seen. So here if you drill down, for each step, you could see the detailed log. Like this is the open URL step, then click on register. So you can see in the values column, you can see what all values have been used as input. Can you see here? For this radio button, it's clicked. For the first name, what is the first name that we gave? Then for the last name, for email, password, and then again in the registration successful, it has the log info as verification was successful. And again, in closed browser, you can see the closed browser step also executed successfully. So again, when you execute, you can have three types of execution. This was a successful execution. A successful execution is always in green color. Then there is an unsuccessful execution, or the one which is unexecuted. Can you see its symbol is this one. The one which is executed successfully is a tick mark. If it fails, it's a cross with red in color. And the one which is unexecuted, it is with this symbol with yellow color. So the latest execution you can see over here is this one. Now again, if you execute your test case once more, you will be able to see again another log. These logs will not be overwritten. These will also be present. So this was the demo section wherein I showed you how to capture the modules and the test cases and the execution section. So just for a quick look through, I'll just show you one of my sample projects that I have created, as in to show how we structure the test cases in Tosca. Yeah, so here are some of the sample test cases that I have created. So this is the modules section. So I worked with some other demo websites wherein I have captured the modules. Then in the test cases section, this is how I have created the test cases. So here, in the previous execution that I showed, I had hard-coded the data for the purpose of the demo. But here I have driven the data through the TCD section. So here you can see the test cases and its instances. So if I expand this, you can see the reusable blocks that I was talking about. Then coming to test case design, you can see this is the test sheet that I have created, for each of the test cases. This is how the test sheets are created and the data is input into the test sheets. And let me just take you to the execution section. In the execution section, again, you can see for this test case, I have executed it multiple times, and for each of the execution instance, you can see its logs are saved successfully. Let me just see if I have any failure log as well. No, I don't have a failure log for now. Yeah, so that's it from my side. So you have any questions or queries?